when few men played by the rules.
You'll never cheat here again!
One man survived.
Is this seat taken?
It is now.
By making his own.
I promise that I will lose for at least an hour.
Sounds good to me.
You did say you were going to lose for an hour.
I am a man of my word.
And his name was Maverick.
You always been gutless.
When it came to beating the odds,
Was that fast? I thought that was fast.
no man was better.
How can I possibly go on without my wallet?
Damn.
Oh, don't get mad at me.
Until he met his match.
Yes. My name is Annabelle Bransford. I'll be taking the stage.
So am I. So am I.
So we are back, episode 14 on the Westerns for Life podcast. And today's episode, we are going to be talking about the 1994 comedy Western, Maverick, directed by Richard Donner, starring Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner.
The plot.
So to the plot point, and Mel Gibson plays Brett Maverick, a gambler who actually considers himself as the kind of the best poker player in the West, and he wants to compete in this big poker game that's going to be on the Lauren Bell, which is kind of like a steam paddle ship. And the entry fee to this big poker game is $25,000, and he is a few $1,000s short. And while he struggles to get the last few thousand to play in this card tournament, he has to go through town to town to collect a few debts and make up the money. And during his travels, he will meet a con artist played by Jodie Foster. And also he meets Zane Cooper, Marshall Zane Cooper, played by James Garner. So that is the main plot of the movie.
The characters.
To the actors now, and Mel Gibson, who plays Brett Maverick, the main lead in this Richard Donner movie. Dan, what did you think of Mel Gibson's performance in Maverick?
Yeah, always loved Mel Gibson. I've said it many times before. He's one of the most likable actors, I feel, in Hollywood, and probably at the height of his powers here, I'd say. And love the little quirks he has with the characters. Like, no one can touch his white shirt or ruin his clothes. He's a bit of a fancy man. And, yeah. It's kind of a hustler character. It's just really entertaining to watch. I mean, definitely had me fooled again watching this. The big kind of poker scene at the beginning, sitting across from Alfred Molina.
Yeah.
Had me fooled. It plays it brilliantly. I just love Mel Gibson. So he's someone I watch in anything, comedy, action, whatever he's in. He's just brilliant as Brett Maverick.
Yeah, and I can only agree. I absolutely effing love Mel Gibson and everything I've seen him in. The guy is just a comedic genius as well. He's like so underrated as like a comedy actor, because even in Lethal Weapon films, and especially in this one, he's just so naturally funny and charismatic on screen. I absolutely love him. I have no bad word to say about Gibson, even though in his personal life he might have done some questionable things. Aside from that, as an actor, I absolutely adore and love him. Another great. I mean, these are not usually my films, but even like a film like What Women Want, that romantic comedy he did with Helen Hunt, I think he's absolutely terrific in that film. Obviously, the Lethal Weapon films, they're going to be my favorites from his career. The Mad Max films, they're obviously fantastic as well. But yeah, just don't have a bad word to say about him, especially not in this film. I think he does a great job here. And like Dan said, to his credit, definitely at the height of his career at this point, mid-90s. I think he does a bang on job in this film. Absolutely fantastic. That's what I think of Mel Gibson. How about yourself, Carlos?
Yeah, I absolutely love Mel Gibson. Especially, you could say that the 1990s is peak Mel Gibson. I mean, he was very hot, obviously, with the Lethal Weapon movies in the late 80s and 90s. The movie he done previous to this, The Man Without a Face, which was actually his first movie as a director. So at this point, not only him as an actor, the 90s was a good peak of his career, because now he's an established director with that movie. And then the movie after this, he went and done Braveheart. So Mel Gibson, whether he's an actor or director, I always enjoy watching him. And comedy-wise, I found that his performance of Brett Maverick pretty natural. And a lot of the times, it looks like it's kind of like Martin Riggs in the West, because it's a very similar.
Yeah.
It's a very similar character, how he just kind of slots into that kind of Martin Riggs moments, because there's a few moments where he starts to lose, crazy Martin Riggs, where you think he's just going to snap. Obviously, he feels comfortable working under Richard Donner, which helps, in this performance, and it shows, because he looks a natural for this movie, being a Western. So I thought he was outstanding in this one. So to the next lead, which is Women of the West.
Women of the West.
And we go to Jodie Foster, who plays like kind of like a con artist, Annabelle Bransford. Dan, what did you think of Jodie Foster?
Well, firstly, I've got to say, I class Jodie Foster as one of the greatest actresses of all time. She's up there with Meryl Streep, Katharine Hepburn, and never been that much attracted to her, but she looks particularly nice in this film. And she makes that character completely her own. Strong character as well, by the way. I love the con artist approach to it. And I love that kind of woman of the West. I go back to another woman who kind of fooled us in the West with Shirley MacLaine in To Mules for Sister Sarah.
Knew you were going to say, I love her. Yeah.
Kind of on that level. But yeah, Jodie Foster, I mean, I don't see anyone can knock her ever since she done Little Girl from Down the Lane right up until this day. She's truly incredible actress, and she's fantastic. In this Western, what I class as a bit of an adventure as well. She's just so entertaining. That's what I think.
Yeah, good comparison there. Jeff?
I actually really like her as well. I would agree with that. She's actually one of the better actresses out there. I mean, she's very, very underrated. She doesn't come up often on lists of like best actresses and stuff, but I think she belongs up there. Admittedly, I haven't seen pretty much like all of her work, let's say. I've seen the vast majority. Obviously, going back to the Taxi Driver days, where she was, 12, 13 or whatever, working with Martin Scorsese and De Niro in that film. All the way to the 90s, obviously, this is where she had some really great films. Like obviously, Silence of the Lambs came a few years before this. I think she's absolutely fantastic, and she plays a really cool character. I agree with Dan once again. The con artist bit, I really love that approach to the character. And she doesn't take any shit from Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson doesn't take much shit from her. It's a cool banter going back and forth between them. Definitely think the chemistry is there between the two of them. Again, I at this point, I don't really have any negative things to say about the performance, especially not about the leads. Pretty much all are great, and Jodie Foster as well. She absolutely delivers. That's what I think of her.
Yeah, I mean, I probably don't class her as right up there with some of the best actresses, but she's near the top for me. And I always forget, even despite she's a little bit younger than Mel Gibson, she's actually more experienced, because she was actually kind of like a teenage actress. Obviously, Taxi Driver, where she got like Academy Award nomination. for that best supporting role.
Yeah.
But I remember when I first watched this, I sort of thought, no, Jodie Foster. Obviously, this is the 90s, and it was a couple of years before she was in Silence of the Lambs, which was a big part for her. It kind of got her back, and that was a serious role. And I sort of kept thinking, I don't know if she can do comedy. But then I forgot she was in that kind of teenage comedy gangster movie, Bugsy Malone, which I think, Dan, you might have seen that one. And I forget that. And every time I watch that, I always forget. And she kind of slots into the kind of the comedic scenes when you don't expect it to be a part of the repertoire. But, you know, there's a few sort of like stumbling falls where there's a scene where she stumbles, actually gets out of the wagon off this sort of stagecoach.
She's a bit of a klutz as well. Yeah.
That actually was by chance and mistake. I think Richard Donner actually liked that scene, and he thought, let's go with that. That she's a bit of a kind of accident pro. She stumbles all over the place. So that really works well. And another thing that works well is the kind of bonding and the banter with Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster. I mean, I do like the bit where Mel Gibson's kind of funny with his shirt. His collar's got really dirty, and he hands her the shirt to kind of to clean, and she washes it, but it actually shrinks.
It shrinks, which reminded me of Lethal Weapon 2, where one of his shirts shrinks as well. Yeah.
So there's some really, really good banter there, and quite a few of the times when they're actually arguing, it really does look like they're actually arguing. So I thought Jodie Foster was. It probably might not look on paper as a great sort of pairing, but as you watch the movie, they are very good together.
It works. Yeah.
And we also go to the next kind of second male lead in the movie, James Garner.
The original Maverick, yeah.
The original Maverick from the TV series in the 50s and early 60s. And he plays a marshal, Zane Cooper. Dan, what did you think of James Garner's performance in this one?
Performance-wise, very good. I mean, chemistry very good. The older boys ahead. Remember when I originally watched it, I thought he was going to be going a different direction. I nearly spoiled something. I thought he was going to go. His character was going to segue off somewhere. James Garner as himself, I've never been particularly a big fan of, despite the wealth of Western he's got in his filmography. He's just something about him never quite done it for me. I think a more supporting actor is what I'm looking for. But yeah, in this, I mean, it's one of them ones. Obviously, the connection with the original Maverick. But in this, I think there's probably a lot of other Hollywood legends who could have played that part. But obviously, the connection is what I got. I'm just not particularly a big fan of him, to be honest. So that's probably a bit different from you two. There you go.
Okay.
Yep. Jeff?
Yeah, no, I mean, I like him. To Dan's point, I don't think I've seen James Garner in a whole lot. I haven't seen a whole lot of films where he's in. The other notable one I can think of is Space Cowboys with Clint Eastwood. And obviously that had a big cast, Donald Sutherland, Tommy Lee Jones as well. I loved him in Space Cowboy. That's part of the ensemble. I did like him in this, again, sort of as an ensemble piece of like the three leads, like Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and him. I've seen a few episodes of the original Maverick TV show. Actually, we're going to get to the releases, but on the German Blu-ray, they put one of the episodes under as a bonus. But yeah, no, I've seen a few episodes of the original Maverick. And I do know that Roger Moore, I think he took it over when Garner left. Seen a bit of the Roger Moore stuff of Maverick as well. It was a good TV series for its time, and I think they did a great job with adapting it now for a big film. Back in the 90s, of course. But no, I think his performance in it is good. I love the twists with his character. I'm not going to spoil much for people who haven't seen it, but there are some, especially towards the end, there are like 2 or 3 twists in a row, which are like, wow, what's happening? Mm-hmm. It's like a bit overwhelming, but I loved it in the end. I thought, it worked out really, really, really great. So in general, I'm positive about his performance. This I could see, however, what Dan says. Like, could I have seen other sort of like Hollywood legends, like Western legend actors in this role as well? Yeah, probably could have been an interchangeable role. It could have been played by any actor, but I do like that it's him, and obviously the connection to the original Maverick. So, yeah, I'm positive about James Garner in this one myself. Yeah.
Actually, out of all the performances in this one, James Garner is actually my favourite. Now, I never watched the original TV series. I can't remember it being on UK TV. But he done a TV series that used to be on UK TV called The Rockford Files, where he played this private eye, Jim Rockford, and so that was kind of my that was kind of my early experience with James Garner. Obviously, The Great Escape. I loved his kind of cheeky, chappy.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
In that movie, and like Dan says, he has been in quite a few westerns. An Hour of a Gun. I actually do have that one in my collection. I haven't watched that and can't remember if I've seen that one. But I do remember the Support Your Local Gunfighter and Support Your Local Sheriff, which are comedy westerns that he has done.
Yeah.
I think there's a single release of those movies, and you can get it in a double pack.
Yeah, I've seen Support Your Local Sheriff. I forgot about that one, actually.
I haven't seen those movies for many, many years. So he has done comedy. And obviously, he did do a spaghetti western, A Man Called Sledge, which I actually do rate.
Yeah.
So he does ease into this role very, very easily. And I kind of, with his character, you just know that there's more behind the character. Obviously, it does get revealed as the movie goes along. And I kind of like the banter between him and Mel Gibson. Obviously, you got a more senior actor, and you kind of got a younger actor. But James Garner was probably my favourite character performance in this movie for sure. As well as a great cast, you also have a good supporting cast, and Graham Greene, who plays Joseph, the Native American. We'll briefly just talk about him. Dan, what did you think of Graham Greene?
I actually find his character hilarious. To be honest, I thought he ramped it up. Some of it probably not politically correct now, but it's a '90s very fun film. And I do like the kind of game Mel Gibson has to play. You know, the one I mean, where he's got to hide, make out he's been shot.
Shove at the arrow.
That whole kind of segment, I think that Graham Greene brings a lot of humour, what I wasn't expecting at the time of watching it, and very enjoyable apart from him. So yeah, especially playing a Native American, I personally find it hilarious, but that's just me.
Yeah, Graham Greene is known for playing Native Americans a lot. Even very, very recently, watching Tulsa King, season 2 was just ended. He played, I think, in like one of the last episodes, Graham Greene popped up there in one of the episodes of Tulsa King. Yeah. Also as a Native American, so but that goes back all the way to like Dances with Wolves, which was 1990, I want to say 1990, 91. Of course, he played like the main sort of buddy for Kevin Costner, I guess, and that one the main Native American introduces him into the group. Yeah, no, I love him. He's in everything I've seen him in. He's one of those actors you always sort of recognize, especially when he has. When he is in the full Native American outfit, it's like, oh, it's a typical Native American guy, sort of. He always pops up as in those roles. But no, I think in this one, he's brilliantly funny. The scene that Dan mentioned where, Mel Gibson has to hide and run and stuff. That was a good one. Especially, I love him. Like, he sort of has to pretend like to be like the stereotypical Native American. It's like, hey, white man, how are you doing? And then it's like, fuck that crap. Let's talk normal. He's like switches to a normal sort of voice. I do like that bit a whole lot. I think he really played it with a lot of charm and finesse and a lot of wit, comedy. Yeah, very good supporting character. Really a highlight in the film for me. I absolutely love him.
I did enjoy the moment where he's talking in his Indian language to Mel Gibson, where they try to pull one over Jodie Foster that they're going to start slicing people up. I
Yeah.
absolutely thought that was quite funny. And just when I thought it was going to get too silly, it kind of it goes back to serious. I think the comedy between his character and Mel Gibson's character just about is enough without going over silly. Like Dan said, it probably wouldn't have been sort of done nowadays because it can come across as a little bit racist. But I thought, yeah, I mean, I thought his role was a good role, but just enough without being too much. I forget that he was also awarded, nominated for a supporting Oscar Academy
For
Award, I should say,
dancers.
for Dancing with Wolves.
Yeah.
Because obviously, when you see him, you're like, oh, I've seen him in loads and loads of movies. As an Indian, as you'd expect, he was always typecasted, but he was good in this. He added quite a bit of the humour without it getting too silly in the movie. And we're going to another supporting actor, James Coburn, who plays Commodore Duval.
Yeah.
Dan, what did you think of James Coburn?
Absolute legend. He's a favourite of mine, James Coburn. Much prefer him over James Mason.
I always like to
How
do a
come you said
James
it like
Mason
that?
impression. Yeah.
Uh,
He's better than the other
Yeah.
James.
James Coburn for me is an absolute legend. I think whenever he's in a film, you know it's going to be a fantastic performance. Again, westerns, well for western movies. Can't fault it. Good guy, villain, just perfect for me most of the time. Much like this performance. Over to you, Jeff.
Yeah, love Coburn. Obviously, another actor with a lot of credits, and especially within the Western genre. I mean, obviously, Magnificent Seven, Pat Garrett, Billy the Kid. No, yeah, that's it. Yeah. Um, Obviously, done so many. Obviously, non-westerns. I love him in Hard Times, Great Escape, all that stuff. Yeah, great actor. Always love seeing him. Um, a little bit of an underrated actor as well, I would say. But no, I think in this one again, as a villain, well, he doesn't let on. He's a villain at first, but obviously that you see shades. He's like the greedy businessman sort of guy in this one, like the rich guy, just trying to get richer, I guess. Um, yeah, no, I love him. Absolutely love him. James Coburn, one of my favorite actors, I would say. That's what I would say of him. Carlos?
Yeah, I think by this time of his career, he was just kind of like doing supporting roles. I mean, he definitely carries weight to the movie, and he doesn't come into the movie past the 1 hour mark.
Yeah, you have to wait for him. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's kind of just in these supporting roles, especially at that time of his career in the 90s. I heard that while filming the movie, he was in pain with his arthritis, but he didn't let on. But yeah, I suppose he's kind of like a name. He's just added more weight to the movie into this kind of all-star cast because it's some great actors. Actors that have been nominated for Academy Awards, and you've got actors that have been in westerns before. James Coburn and James Garner, as well as a great cast of the main players. We do have some good cameo roles from actors and actresses from past Richard Donner movies. You also get Margot Kidder. She plays one of the missionary women who Brett Maverick bumps into, who they get robbed of $30,000, and he helps to try and get that money back. And also you do get Jeffrey Lewis, who'd been in many Clint Eastwood movies. He plays the bank manager, Eugene.
There he is on the right hand side. Yeah.
And you also get Danny Glover, who plays one of the bank robbers in kind of like a slightly paying homage to his Lethal Weapon character. What did you think of Danny Glover and those other sort of cameo roles? Dan?
So yeah, we start with Danny Glover. I remember the first time I watched it, no one else in the room actually knew what the connection was. I didn't know why I was so excited to see it. I won't say too much about it because I know Jeff can sum it up really nice, but I love this little cameo. Yeah, Margot Kidder in this looks completely different to she did as Lois Lane in Superman. I mean, I always found her quite attractive as Lois Lane, but she looks
So did
rough
I.
in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeffrey Lewis, as me and Jeff was talking before, I think he's brilliant. I love Jeffrey Lewis. First film I ever seen him in was Double Impact, but everything I've seen him in is great. And of course, Corey Feldman as well, with a connection with Goonies and a Richard Donner film. So yeah, if you've seen Richard Donner films, you really appreciate the cameos and know why they're there and the significance. Over to you, Jeff.
Yeah, let's start with Margot Kidder. Yeah, I didn't recognize her at first. It was only afterwards when I looked at the credits. I was like, Margot Kidder, was she in this? So yeah, that's when I found out she was one of the missionaries. But yeah, she looked totally different as she did, or from what she did as Lois Lane. But that was a nice cameo to see. Yeah, same with Corey. Yeah, obviously from the Goonies and stuff, that was great to see. Jeffrey Lewis for me as well. I mean, the first thing that I saw him in, Dan said Double Impact. That must have been one of the early ones for me as well. But the first thing I seen Jeffrey Lewis in was in an episode of the A-Team. I think he guest starred in 2 episodes of the A-Team. And obviously after that he did, I've seen him in all the Clint Eastwood films, High Plains Drifter, the Every Which Way films, all that stuff, Bronco Billy. And then of course he popped up in action films like Tango and Cash and Double Impact. So yeah, Jeffrey Lewis is another one of those faces I just love to see, and I think he was great as well. But yeah, the main one obviously is Danny Glover as the bank robber. I love it when he gets in, he's all masked up, he's got the bandana on. Mel Gibson tries to go for the money that he has, and it's like, get away from that. And then his mask drops, or Gibson pulls it down rather, and they just give that great double take to each other, like, you look familiar. Like, do I know you? I think it's perfect. Probably my favorite cameo in a film of all time, to be honest. I absolutely love them. The way that they play the Lethal Weapon music as well, when they sort of have that connection with each other. And the great cherry on top when he leaves the bank, he gets on his horse and he says, "I'm too old for this shit." So it doesn't get any more perfect than that for me. Perfect cameo.
I'm glad you said that, because quite a few people that I've spoken to, they all sort of said, they said it was pretty pointless, but I love the scene with Danny Glover as he popped up. And I watched it early in the year, and it's been a while since I'd watched it. Obviously, I watched it again last night, but when I watched it early in the year, I totally forgot Danny Glover popped in this this movie, and brought a smile to my face. Margot Kidder, I mean, I think she was going through hard times with a drug abuse issue, and she kind of lost her looks by this time in the 90s. She was a bit sort of awkward to work with her personal issues and demons. Jeffrey Lewis, I actually was a bit surprised, because I think, did he play a bank manager with an Irish accent, which caught me off guard a little bit. But it was good to see him in that, Jeffrey Lewis, and yeah, very good cameo sort of roles from actors who'd been in a few of Richard Donner's movies, which leads us on to the next one, to the director Richard Donner.
Behind the camera.
So Richard Donner, I think, is one of them great Hollywood directors with a fantastic filmography. I'm not the biggest superhero fan, but his his work with the Superman movie is just absolutely fantastic. You jump to the Goonies, for me, the perfect sort of adventure film. Then you go Lethal Weapon. I just think it's just a wealth of just absolute brilliance. And I know he was old when he passed, but it's such a shame that he's not going to be on board for Lethal Weapon 5, which
Yeah.
hopefully Mel Gibson is gonna do. But I would just think that would have been fantastic. Yeah, for me, he's one of my favourite directors outside ones I've mentioned before. He's up there. Can't really fault him. Done some duds, but you know, he's brilliant.
Yeah, I love Donner. So many great films. I mean, going back all the way to Superman 87, with 77, 87, one of the two with Christopher Reeve. What a film that is. The same. I'm also not the biggest superhero fan. I mean, obviously the old ones like Superman from Donner and the Michael Keaton Batman 89. I love that film as well. Those are the superhero films I do like and do enjoy a hell of a lot. But even before, I think the earliest one I've seen of Donner is Twinkie or Lola with Bronson, which is like a very, very weird film. That's not a good one. That's one of the duds, I would say. Even after, yeah, The Goonies, great film. The Lethal Weapon films, all four of them directed by Richard Donner, fantastic. Like I said, those would probably be my favorites. Also with Mel Gibson, he did Conspiracy Theory as well, which I think was after this one, yeah, or before. I sort of get the timeline mixed up there, but it was also a 90s one, I do know that. And even a very underrated Bruce Willis film,
16 Blocks.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Actually didn't mind that film. I thought it was pretty solid.
Really good, that one.
Yeah. To Dan's point once again, it's a shame he passed away because he was committed and he was working on a treatment or script for Lethal Weapon 5, and he has given Mel Gibson the blessing to do it. You know, and to quote himself, he said to Mel Gibson, "When I kick the bucket, you're going to take over." So he has given Gibson the permission to direct the film, and Gibson said he would do it. So, although that's been like 2 or 3 years ago at this point, so we got to get on that because I want to see it. You know, pretty much all the films I've seen of Richard Donner, even Assassins with Stallone and Banderas. I love that film. Yeah, not a film that many people love, but I actually do really enjoy a lot as a great cat and mouse thriller.
I enjoy that one.
Yeah. I would say the only one I didn't like was Twinkie with Bronson, and that's coming from 101 Bronson, so that says a lot. Yeah. Overall, Richard Donner, great career, great, what's the word I'm looking for? Great catalog of films in his career. Yeah, great director, and he does a great job here. Carlos?
I like him for the main reason that he's a director who's taken on a few challenges with types of movies he's done. I mean, Jeff did say about that kind of awkward love romantic movie with Charles Bronson, and while it's not a good one, you know, many years later, you know, he done the classic horror movie The Omen, and so he's gone from a love and a romantic movie to one of the top horror movies, which is a classic in the 70s, then onto a Superman movie. And then obviously the Goonies, and I'm only going to just mention some of the main movies that he's always remembered, and then obviously the Lethal Weapon movies. So very accomplished director, and you can tell because I mean, look at the cast that have sort of come into this movie. Obviously, with Richard Donner was a respected director, so I like his work. As in most of those movies, most of the movies from his career, I do have very, very good director, great director. So
yeah, you forget about the diversity because totally forgot about The Omen. But yes, he did direct The Omen. You forget that he goes from like Twinkie to The Omen to Superman. It's like, wow, yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I suppose a lot of directors they like the sound of making a western, but making a western is kind of a big step. But this one, it's an enjoyable one for me. Anyway, we'll go to some of our kind of favorite scenes.
Favorite scenes.
Dan, we'll just pick one favourite scene between the three of us.
Yeah, I did sort of touch upon it earlier because it surprised me again watching it, but it's the scene where you think Mel Gibson is taking on basically a posse of guys outside, and he just absolutely beats them up. I think the whole before and the after, um, because I don't want to give it away, but what kind of unfolds after that, and you found out what just really happened, you wouldn't kind of link that with Mel Gibson's character. You think he's like a legit gunfighter, tough guy, hustler. I just really love that scene. I don't want to give a mention to another scene, which is a toss up because one of you's probably going to go for it. But yeah, I love that scene where he goes outside and of course comes back in filthy, which he doesn't like. That's mine.
And Jeff?
My favorite scene, hands down, because I'm such a big Lethal Weapon fan, has to be the bit where Danny Glover comes in. It's only like a 30 seconds bit between him and Gibson, and the scene in total is like a minute or whatever. But I absolutely love that. Like I said, for me, it's the best cameo moment in a film that I've ever seen so far. To be fair, yeah, like I said, just perfect the way they execute it, the way Gibson and Glover look at each other, the looks they exchange, and then the cherry on top with "I'm too old for this shit," like the famous line from Lethal Weapon being delivered there. I mean, chef's kiss. I think that's perfect. I just think that's a perfect scene. Yeah, just a quick runner-up. I would say the scene that Dan mentioned, where he goes outside and comes back in. Let's leave it at that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I got a couple of scenes I'll just briefly mention. I'll say my favourite scene would be the ending with James Garner.
Yeah, the ending is up there for me as well. Yeah.
But, we're not going to go to spoiler territory, but there's a great scene between Zane Cooper and Brett Maverick, for those who haven't seen the movie. So I thought that was a cool moment in the movie between James Garner and Mel Gibson. But on watching this last night, I had to sort of watch in awe, where it's mainly down to the stunt work, where while they're on the stagecoach, the three main leads to this movie, the old timer who's driving the stagecoach actually dies.
Yeah.
And then it's quite noticeable because the horses are sort of pulling the stagecoach really, really fast. And obviously the marshal kind of says, he sort of says to Brett Maverick, you got to kind of ride the stagecoach. But the stunt work on that, I thought was pretty amazing. Obviously, something like that now would probably be a hell of a lot of CGI. I mean, there is Mel Gibson. You see him in various points of that sort of scene. He's not doing the stunt, but I thought that was really, really, really great stunt work in the movie. And also mention another scene where the three main leads are arguing when they're going to sort of, Brett Maverick's going to approach the robbers who have taken the $30,000 from the missionary women, where they're kind of hiding in the shadows, and the three of them are just arguing, where they have about 3 arguments before Maverick actually approaches them, and each time they argue louder and louder, and you sort of think, how can they not hear them? And I thought that was really good acting. So yeah, there's quite a few good scenes to Maverick.
Another one I will say is the opening bit, where I love it when they do that in films, where they sort of show something from like in the middle of the film, and like the first half of the film is like everything leading up to that moment. Yeah, I like the opening scene of the film as well. Yeah,
that was cool. So, as with most westerns, we do get some great soundtracks.
The music.
So the soundtrack was done by Randy Newman. Dan, what did you think of the soundtrack and music for this movie, briefly?
It's a recognisable one, and I do like Randy Newman as a composer. film work, TV. I wouldn't go as far as buying it or adding it to a playlist, but when you see Maverick, you can definitely recognise it and connect it. And I say Randy Newman's a very, very well, more than competent composer. So he's up there, top upper tier for me.
Jeff?
Yeah, I'd go along with that. Like, he does a lot of great scores, and the one that he provides for this film is works. It's sort of very orchestral and like very it drives the scenes. I guess is what I'm going for. When a scene is like very funny, like I guess kind of slapsticky, he provides the correct music for that, and when the scenes are a bit more serious, he provides the correct music for that. It probably won't be a soundtrack I'll listen to like I do with like like The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, for example. Again, that's setting the bar very high, so it's not a soundtrack I will listen to on Spotify or whatever, but it works very well within the film, and I think it's a top-notch score. So that's another element of the film that really, really works for me.
Yeah, I thought it was. It was acceptable. It's not a classic movie soundtrack for me, but it does go well with a lot of the kind of the comedic nature and adventure to this Western comedy. So I thought it was a passable one, decent one.
The Review Roundup.
So as we've just mentioned some of our favourite scenes, we go to good points and bad points of the movie, and we will give our rating out of cowboy hats. To you, Dan.
I've been thinking about this. I'm struggling for bad points because I just don't think they make entertaining films like this anymore. I'd probably say at a stretch, and I'm really clutching at straws, it's a little longer than I remember it, but it's not a gripe. Just a touch over 2 hours. But honestly,
it is long,
I
but
can't.
The pacing is good. Yeah.
The pacing is really good. But I honestly can't think of anything I would really change. It's as good as I remember it when it come out. Yeah, I've got no negatives.
Good
you want me to give my positives now?
Yeah,
good points.
Yeah.
So I'm going to sum this up like this now. It's classed as a comedy western, but I'm going to say it's a comedy western adventure because I just always have a really good time with it, and it's one of them again, like we said on this podcast, that if you're trying to get into westerns and watch it, it's quite a good place to start, especially with children, because it's, other than I suppose the Native American bit, it's not really offensive at all. It's just highly entertaining, and as I say, they just don't make films like this anymore. And you think it's 30 years ago, and where's it all gone so wrong? You can have this film which you go to the cinema back in the day and just thoroughly enjoy, and you can't wait for it to come out, and then you rent it and then you can't wait to buy it. It's one of them, that was the pattern with me. That doesn't happen now. It's really quite a spectacular, family friendly action comedy western. That's what I think, to sum it up as brief as possible.
And your rating out of cowboy hats?
Rating? Yeah.
I'm going to go with, I don't normally do the halves, but I'm going to go with an 8.5 cowboy hat rating for this, because I think when you've got a great cast, a great director, I can't really fault it. I'd struggle to give it a 10. I think 8.5 is a lot higher than what many would rate it. So I'm looking forward to seeing what you two rate it at. But yeah, definitely a must watch.
And you, Jeff?
Yeah, same for me. Negative points, I really can't think of anything. Yeah, like Dan said, the film is long, like maybe longer than this film should have been, but you don't feel it because it's just so well paced, and like every scene something interesting happens. It's not like there's a dull moment or anything in the film or anything like that. It just moves along at a brisk pace, always something interesting happening. So yeah, not really any negative points for me, to be fair. So yeah, positive. I think it's a very well made film. Obviously Richard Donner is a top director for me. Like I said, pacing is good, music is good. the comedy works. There's not like a comedy bit where I'm like, okay, that joke didn't land for me or something. Like every bit made me chuckle or laugh or everything. It works in its intended purpose, I guess. Strong ensemble cast, like we discussed. Great cameos, like I said, one of the best cameos ever. So yeah, this is a very high rating one for me as well. Like if I ever do a top 10 Mel Gibson film list, expect this to be on it. Even though there are 4 Lethal Weapon films and 3 Mad Max films, so there are not a lot of slots left for other films, but this one will definitely be on it. But yeah, it's a top film, and I was sort of thinking if I'm going to give this a 7, 7.5, or 8, but hearing Dan say 8.5, I might agree with Dan. I might as well give it an 8.5 as well. I think that's a pretty good score for it because it's just damn entertaining. Never lets up. Yeah, just all around positive. I think this is a winner compared to a Western comedy we did in a previous episode, Blazing Saddles. This one is a winner for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only second to what you guys have said. I mean, it's got a great cast, great cameos. It's well directed for a director who's never done a Western before. And it's, good, high budget, and it shows. It really does show. I also love the scenery shots, which I think they were shot in Utah and Arizona. You know that they've shot on location. I mean, if it was done today, they might have used CGI. So that kind of always is a big plus for me watching Western and loving Western movies when they use, original location shots, and they do several times in the movie. So, what Dan says is you can say this is kind of like a family adventure comedy Western, and for kind of newbies kind of looking to get into the genre, this is a really good one to watch. It's entertaining. It's got some action scenes. Yeah, very, very good Western. The only slight gripe I have would probably be, this is really me nitpicking, is probably the Brett Maverick and the Native American scene. I thought that could have just been trimmed down because the storyline was going one way, then it kind of goes to another way where they have that scenario where they try to pull the wool over that Russian guy, which I thought that could have been maybe not in the movie, but it doesn't hamper the movie. It doesn't dampen the movie because it's a very good comedy Western, which is kind of one of the reasons why I wanted to do an episode on this movie, because it's a favorite of mine as in comedy Westerns, which I think all of us can agree comedy Westerns are not our thing. But I would give this a very strong rating of 7.5 cowboy hats for me. So any trivia, Dan, Jeff?
What's his face? James Garner's character Cooper is obviously taken from Gary Cooper, a famous Western actor. I do know that bit. I think what you pointed out earlier, Carlos, with Jodie Foster, like once the first scene that they directed, she stumbled, and they sort of kept that as a running joke. They added more of that, so that's got the trivia.
I've got a little bit. According to James Garner, he wasn't the original choice, believe it or not. Richard Donner was eyeing up Paul Newman. But I think the stumbling block. I think the stumbling block was either he read the script, and I think he might have been a little bit too demanding on the fee. But I just only read that because it's in one of James Garner's memoirs that he said that. So, but I think it was a nice touch to have James Garner in the movie because obviously he was in the original TV series. So I read on that. And also there was a scene where James Coburn and James Garner, where the two characters, Commodore DeVal and Zane Cooper, where they're talking about the the poker tournament, and obviously him supposed to be the lawman. He said there would be no guns being used, and he's got 2 guns.
Yeah.
By accident, he drops one of the guns, which he wasn't meant to, but they kept that scene in it. So they kind of improvised, and James Garner, just him being the professional, he just carried on and acted the scene. But if you see for a brief moment, I think James Coburn has a bit of a smile, because obviously he wasn't supposed to have dropped one of the guns. And also Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster worked that well. Jodie Foster was actually supposed to be in Conspiracy Theory, but I think she was signed to do the Contact movie. So obviously it went to Julia Roberts. That's the only bit of trivia that I know.
I've got another one. You got another Lethal Weapon connection. You got the guy that plays the police captain in the Lethal Weapon films, like the old guy, who always like gives Murtaugh and
is he in this? Is
Riggs. Yeah, he's one of the gambling dealers.
Oh,
one of
okay.
the poker dealers. There's a bit where he gets up from his chair, and the chair sort of gets stuck to him, and he has to sort of get this chair off him.
There's quite a few in here.
You can actually see Mel Gibson starting to smile, and then right after he starts to smile, they cut. Like that wasn't meant to be. That was an accident.
Yeah.
That's
There's
one I definitely noticed. Yeah,
there is a few more cameo roles. I mean, the whole movie's full of cameos from movies and TV series of actors and actresses. So with that, we go talk about the releases, which I'm guessing this was quite an easy, attainable movie. Which release do you have? Which is Dan? I think I've just got the Warner Brothers.
Yeah. I've just got the Warner Brothers release, which you've got to say is got a couple of features on there, and it is a very, very strong, sharp-looking Blu-ray as well.
Yeah.
I'm quite surprised, unless it's been announced, I'm quite surprised we haven't got an anniversary release of this year, especially it being Richard Donner. I think it would have benefited from it. But, that's a very good release to get. Couldn't fault it.
You, Jeff, have you got a different version?
Yeah, I've actually, for this occasion, picked up the German media book that was released last year by Koch Media or Play on Pictures, as they are known now, which, does have the cool original poster art on there. It has a lot of extras, special features, making of documentary, which is like 30 minutes. A music video for Amazing Grace, the first episode of the original Maverick show, and a bunch of trailers and stuff like that. And of course, it being a media book, it's double format. So you got the Blu-ray there on one side and the DVD right there. And obviously you got some pictures and stuff in the middle and some text, which is obviously all in German. But as I keep saying, I do know German. So for me, that's not a problem. So but that's the release that I got,
So so that's kind of like our Maverick episode, and on to the episode 15, which Dan is going to say which movie, and we do have a special guest coming on. So Dan, over to you.
So I've picked. Funny enough, as we don't all like your comedy westerns, I've actually gone for another one, a Euro comedy western. My Name Is Nobody. I've picked this for many reasons, mainly because the special guest I want to coax out of retirement, let's say. But this film I'm looking forward to speaking about, because it surprised me, and there's some really good bits to talk about with My Name Is Nobody.
Awesome. I look forward to that episode, because it's a favourite of mine. My Name Is Nobody.
I like it a hell of a lot too. So that's going to probably be another positive episode.
So that's what we've got coming up on episode 15. So, Jeff, you want to take it out with the pistol? You locked up and loaded?
I think so. Wait, let me check my bullets.
We didn't have it last time. Got it this time.
Got 6 bullets, so we should be good. Before we sign off, obviously you guys know by this point we're also on other platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that good stuff. Just type into your Google search engine the Westerns for Life podcast, and it'll come up on all different search results. for all the different platforms. And with that, see you in episode 15, Westerns for Life. Adios amigos, adios compañeros, and stick 'em up, partner. Adios.
This May 20th,
Well, I remember my first runaway stage.
don't worry, nothing to worry about. I got it all under control. They're out to win the biggest prize of all.
Welcome to the first ever All Rivers Raw Poker Championship.
From the toughest competition of all, each other. Mel Gibson,
You called me son.
I believe he called you a gutless coward.
No, I did not say that. I was teasing. Teasing?
I don't like being teased.
Jodie Foster,
See, there you go, being all likable again.
James Garner,
Woman's suffering's not a funny thing.
There are exceptions.
at a time when men lived for adventure,
Everybody's got a gun.
one man almost died for it.
Stop playing around and stop those horses.
Again and again
Whoa, Ollie, whoa.
and again.
However did you escape from those hostiles? Oh,
Maverick,
my, such splendid similarities.
a Richard Donner film,
From the looks of things, I'll have the lady come in with some more hot water.
coming May 20th.